Earlier, I spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Mr. Prime Minister, nice to talk to you again, sir.
Good to talk to you, Greta.
Mr. Prime Minister, President Trump is in Turkey at the NATO summit, meeting with President Erdogan today, and there's discussion about selling F-35s to Turkey. What does that impact on Israel, if any?
I think it's a mistake because Erdogan has a regime that threatens Greece, a NATO partner, occupies half of Cyprus, a NATO partner, and frankly, openly calls for Israel's destruction. His number two a few days ago said, the Jewish state has no place among the nations. You know what you have to do to remove it from its place among the nations. His number three, the interior minister, says he's looking forward to the day that he will govern Jerusalem. So these people are talking about annihilating my country. He's put more journalists in jail than I think any other regime in the world. He puts his opponents in jail. He is infected completely by the Muslim Brotherhood movement, which hates America and chants death to America. That's from the other side. You know, there are the radical Shiites in Iran and the radical Sunnis that are led by Turkey. So this is not a friend of the United States. I think many in the region, including myself, would be very much concerned if Erdogan, if this regime that often condemns America and often attacks America verbally, that it should have the weapons like the F-35. I think it will greatly destabilize the region.
Well, President Trump seemed to indicate that he had a very good relationship with Erdogan, but back in September, I think it was September of 2023, Erdogan was quoted as saying a just world is possible, but not with America. And I suspect that was about the time he at the UN, and you also met with Erdogan about that time. Is Erdogan someone we cannot trust?
I would not trust him. He's not a friend of the United States. Now, granted, there are personal relations in the international in the international arena, and I don't discount that President Trump has such a relationship with Erdogan. On the other hand, he also has such a relationship with the dictator of North Korea. That doesn't make North Korea a friend of the United States. So I think that changing the power balance by giving this regime that often condemns America, often attacks America, does not join in helping America with Iran. In fact, he was stopped from helping Iran against America. So I think this is not a regime you want to sell F-35s or advanced jet engines to.
And turning now to Iran, they've had the funeral service for the Ayatollah, and naturally I saw the pictures, lots of people, thousands, maybe a million, many of them with signs that said, kill Trump, kill you, I think kill War Secretary Hegseth. In the midst of all this, we're trying to work out some sort of peace deal with Iran. Can Iran be trusted? Has Iran changed? And can we possibly work a deal out with them?
No, of course you can't trust them. And therefore, I don't know if there will be a deal or no deal. I've pledged, as President Trump has pledged, that Iran under no circumstances would have nuclear weapons. And I stand by that. Now, what do you do when you make a deal with someone you don't trust? You make sure that you have 100 ways to verify compliance with the deal. That is, if you have a deal at all. So I think it's too early to say, but I personally would not trust Iran the length of this room, which is about 3 meters long. So no, they're totally untrustworthy.
Can we rely on the IAEA? Are they competent to do, if they do the inspections? Because I know we've had problems in the past. I mean, Iran was enriching uranium, and it wasn't located. We didn't know about it. At least I didn't know about it. Maybe that's not, maybe everybody else did. But can the IAEA really do the job of inspecting and protecting the world?
Well, not if it's under the former agreement, which is called the JCPOA. That was signed by the previous administration. I'll tell you why. Because they have the right under that agreement to be warned a month ahead of time of an upcoming inspection. You know how much evidence you can destroy, how many signs you can bury in a month. And not only that, they still have the right to let you in where they choose to let you in and not to let you in other places. So the inspection regime of the IAEA could be fine if it was universal, if it was accessible at any time, if Iran could not stop the inspections at will. That's not what they had. That's the only kind of inspection you should have, but it remains to be seen if there'll be a deal at all.
Let me go back to June a year ago when the United States and Israel hit some targets in Iran. And at least what we were told at first is that there was a destruction or heavily hit the nuclear enrichment capabilities of Iran. Can you tell me what their capabilities are, what they were then after we hit and what they are now? Do you have any idea?
Yes, of course I do. Look, we went out to these, first to the Rising Lion operation, which President Trump added Midnight Hammer, the use of the B-2s at the end of the operation. We went to that and subsequently to what is called Epic Fury. We call it Roaring Lion. We went to that because Iran was on the verge of making nuclear weapons. We pushed that immediate threat away. We destroyed a lot of their infrastructure, a lot of their centrifuges, a lot of the associated factories and facilities that they use for manufacturing nuclear weapons, and we knocked out 20 of their top nuclear scientists. 20 of their top nuclear scientists. So we pushed it back considerably. Do they have that capability now? No, because we pushed them back. But it doesn't mean that left to their own devices, they'll go back to it. It's like, when you excise a piece of cancer, a lump of cancer from your body, it may come back. But you know one thing, if you wouldn't do it, you could die. And Israel was obviously placed with an existential threat. And America was placed with was threatened with a very great danger. Because of this regime that chants death to America, death to Trump, will destroy America, and so on. If you give that regime the ability to have ballistic missiles that could reach ultimately the United States, and they could arm it with nuclear weapons, then every single American would be in danger. That's why we set out to do these two things, and that is destroying the nuclear threat or pushing it away, and also destroying a good chunk of their capacity to make ballistic missiles. That's very important, not only for our security and the security of every country in our region, but also for the security of the United States. And that's why President Trump decided to do this. He does what he thinks is good for the United States. And in this case, I would say it was essential for the security of the United States.
There's always the talk about the nuclear weapons. The thing that always frightens me and that nobody ever talks about, maybe this doesn't involve Iran or not, but it's biological and chemical weapons. Does Iran have biological and chemical weapons in their supply?
They definitely have chemical weapons. That I can tell you. And that is another danger that they pose. Understand, this is a regime that has, there are about 90 million people in Iran, and the vast majority, like 80%, hate this regime. They basically consider it theological thugs who took over the country and hold them at gunpoint. In fact, they shoot them. They murdered and maimed over 40,000 Iranians who are praying for their liberty. So you could see that this regime that doesn't care about murdering its own citizens, when they chant death to the United States, that have no compunction about using these weapons if they had them. And the greatest danger that humanity faces is the marriage between a radical Islamic regime and nuclear weapons. When you have both in Iran, you're in great, I would say, in mortal danger. That's what we set out to prevent. We pushed it back, but it's not over. The jury's still out. I'm the first to say that.
Well, there were so many leaders that were killed. Even the Ayatollah was killed on day one, on February 28th, but it seems they've got so many layers. I mean, how deep can they go? I mean, no matter how many of these layers of their leadership, because, I'm quite surprised that they keep, getting up and fighting again.
Well, they're very weak. They're a lot weaker than they were before because of the combined action of our brave soldiers, your brave soldiers and ours, and I think the brave pilots. I mean, we knocked out a lot of their infrastructure, a lot of their capabilities. Iran is tottering. The IRGC, the Revolutionary Guards that basically control Iran, they lost a lot of their money machines. That is the various industries that they use to milk the funds and give them the money. They live like kings. You got to understand this. The Iranian people are in abject poverty. and the dictators and their goons who tyrannize them, they live like kings. By the way, the same is in Gaza, the same with Hezbollah, with their proxies, the same thing, you know. They take care of themselves and they care nothing for the people. So I don't think this will last. I think eventually the people will throw them out. We'll have to give them a little assistance. But this regime that doesn't care a whit about murdering its own people will not care a whit about murdering hundreds of thousands of Americans if they could. Let's not give them the means to do so. Let's make sure that they end their nuclear program, because otherwise bad things will happen.
Well, I was always surprised when Haniyeh, who was taken out during as the leader of Hamas, he was living in Qatar. I think when he was killed, he was worth about $4 or $5 billion. And as I always said, he didn't invent the iPhone. Where did he get the money? I mean, it's like, and he didn't start Amazon here. So I was shocked. But let me turn to the money of Iran. Are they able now to finance Hezbollah? Because you're dealing with that in the northern part of Israel and into Lebanon. What's the future of peace with Lebanon? Is Hezbollah being choked at all by the fact that Iran has money problems?
It is, but to the extent that Iran will get money, they'll funnel it to Hezbollah first thing, because Hezbollah is their proxy. It's their proxy in this part of the world to threaten Israel and threaten anyone else in sight. I think Hezbollah, like Iran, has been battered by our action, but it's not disappeared. It had 150,000 rockets and missiles before we took them out. That's the greatest concentration of missiles and ballistic missiles on the planet. Now they have about 8% of that. That still leaves them a sufficient quantity, but it's not, it's not what it was before. And yes, Iran is trying to finance them as we speak, and we're trying to prevent them from financing them. And that's not only good for us, it's good for Lebanon, because Israel and Lebanon would have peace. We could sign the 5th peace deal in the Abraham Accords after the 4 peace agreements that President Trump and I achieved with 4 Arab countries. Lebanon would gladly be the 5th, but it can't, because Iran placed Hezbollah there as basically as a foreign ideology that takes this beautiful country, Lebanon, beautiful people, and tyrannizes them. And if anyone dares oppose them, they shoot them, just the way they do on the streets of Tehran. So ultimately, we'll have to deal with Hezbollah. We've done quite a bit up to now, but Lebanon will be free, and Israel and Lebanon will have a peace agreement when Hezbollah is dismantled in Lebanon.